We now present For the Record.
The legislature's powerful budget writing committee resumes their work on the state budget process. A Dane County lawmaker continues her work to create a task force for missing and murdered black women and girls. Plus, we sit down with two well-known faces on one of Madison's newest pro sports teams. Lauren Carlini and Claire Chaussee talked about the impact of pro volleyball in Wisconsin. Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Keneally. We will get to the latest on the state budget work in just a moment, but we start this week continuing our coverage of the big, beautiful bill working its way through Washington. Last week, the legislation passed the House. Now it's working its way through the U.S. Senate. The future of the bill, though, remains uncertain, or at least we're expecting some changes once senators get to work. Now, among the skeptics in Washington is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. He said this earlier this week at a WisPolitics luncheon in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we have four that are going to dig our heels in. Again, all of us want President Trump to succeed. We want America to succeed. But I know President Trump made a bunch of promises. My promise has been consistently, we have to stop mortgaging our children's future. Okay? So no, I think they're enough to slow this process down until the president, our leadership, gets serious about returning to a pre-pandemic level.
And back in Wisconsin, the executive director of the Wisconsin Republican Party, Andrew Iverson, is leaving his post to take a job in the Trump administration. He will serve as the director of rural development in Wisconsin at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, the party's political director will fill in running the day-to-day operations until the GOP hires a replacement. That's a process they say could take 5 to 6 weeks. Now, in the state capitol, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has suspended a Dane County judge for what they described as two troubling incidents. Judge Ellen Burrs will serve a 7-day suspension later in June. Now, the charges stem from two incidents, one in which Burrs attempted to use a personal vehicle to retrieve a man for her courtroom. In another instance, Burrs said a defendant's request for a continuation, quote, in all probability will turn out to be a ruse. Now, the justices called that conduct unbecoming of a judge. Also in the state capitol, a slate of bills got public hearings this week. One bill would create workplace benefits for delivery drivers for apps like DoorDash. Another would prohibit Wisconsinites from using food stamps to buy candy or soda. And the bill that we've been covering for a while, legislation that would allow advanced practice registered nurses more freedom to practice without a doctor, that bill received a hearing in the state Senate this week. Now, at the same time, lawmakers this week continued their work on the state budget. The legislature's powerful Joint Finance Committee took action on a preliminary group of state agencies, including the Secretary of State's office, the Lieutenant Governor, State Treasurer, and the Department of Safety and Professional Services. Now, these are expected to be some of the easier agencies to approve, with lawmakers saving some of the more contentious agencies for later. Now, this is all as Republican lawmakers and the state's Democratic governor are negotiating behind closed doors on a possible tax cut to include in the state budget. Now, the group met for a third time this week, but legislative leaders would not share much about those ongoing discussions.
Hey, I don't think we're going to talk about the conversations with the governor, so we're pleased that he's meeting with us and our conversations are ongoing, and that's about it.
Now, between those closed-door meetings, Governor Evers has been touring the state. Our sister station News 8 in La Crosse asked the governor about those tax cut negotiations and what he needs to see from Republicans.
We'll see. I mean, they have a huge tax cut, a huge tax cut that impacts a lot of rich people in a really good way from their point of view. It's all about middle-class tax cuts for us, and so we're still working on that. I think we will find some solutions.
Now, for more on where this budget process stands, we caught up with political analyst Brandon Scholes. Here's more. Why is Joint Finance tackling these agencies, and why now?
Because they're easy. That's the simple version. You know, you're looking at somewhere around a $99 billion budget out of 55 agencies. So that's a lot of money to figure out who goes where. So why not take the ones that really don't take a lot of time? So the 10 that they did 2 weeks ago, the 10 that they did on Thursday, are agencies that don't use GPR. The fund, what that means is they're not using your tax dollars. Yeah. So it's easier to take those small agencies. In total, all 20 don't even make up almost, $100 million. So it's not really a big, a dent in the budget. Take those, get them out of the way, move them on, and be done with them. So now you have roughly 35 agencies left to spread $99 billion around. It's not that easy because each agency is asking for money. For example, the Department of Health Services is asking for $42 billion, almost half. And then when you add on the UW system at $16 billion and transportation at $8 billion, you know, pretty soon you've chewed up 2/3 of that 99 billion. So it goes pretty quickly when you get to the big ones. And that's why you'll usually see those at the end, because they're more difficult, there's more discussion, it's a lot of money. And there's a difference between what the governor has proposed in his original budget and what the Republicans have put in their, their substitute amendment budget.
Mm-hmm. So a moving target, certainly, as we're looking at these ongoing negotiations for this tax cut. The governor and legislative leaders have met some 3 times behind closed doors. I know those doors are closed, right? You probably don't have quite insight into it yet. We're trying to get as much as we can out of the legislative leaders. They are just tight-lipped. They will not give us anything. What do you imagine is going on behind those closed doors there?
It's negotiations. I mean, it's, we do know some things. We know the Republicans want a tax cut. We know they want that tax cut outside of the budget, because that's a whole different chess game with the governor. The governor says, I want more spending on education, or I want what I want. And I want spending on health care. I want what I want. So if you want something and I want something, we're going to have to find some middle ground. So nobody really knows how that's going to be put together. The good news is that even though we don't know what they're saying specifically, we don't know what the negotiating points are, the good news is that they're talking. And that's not something that's common in split government, when one party controls the governor's mansion and the legislature controls the legislature. This is a good thing that they're talking, because we do know that when this is all said and done and they get through spending all that $99 billion and everybody gets their money and the legislature approves this budget and it goes to the governor, he can still pull out that pen and he can veto sections of the budget. And as we know, Wisconsin has one of the most powerful veto pens in the country, because he could take out letters and words and numbers and change the dynamics of what a paragraph says. So if they can negotiate and come to some agreement, they're still going to fight about a whole bunch of stuff. But if they can agree on some things and it kind of mitigates the impact of a veto, maybe there aren't as many vetoes as Evers could have. Like every governor, it's not just Governor Evers. It's, it goes back to Tommy Thompson and his big veto pencil. But if they can negotiate some of this through and they can get to a budget they agree on for the most part, they're still going to have a lot of disagreements. And when the Republicans and Democrats meet the legislature to debate it, you're going to hear days worth of stuff that they don't agree on. The hope is that when the budget is passed in the Assembly and Senate, which it will, goes to the governor, that he will sign it, or the vetoes could be minimal. It all depends on what they negotiate and who gets what.
Now, looking at our watches here, when would you start to be worried that we might not get a budget on time for June 30th?
Comes June, the end of June, and we're not done. The governor hasn't signed it. Life goes on. Wisconsin is different than the federal government. When they run out of money, they stop. Government shuts down. We hear that all the time. But in Wisconsin, we continue to do our business because state agencies and those that rely on state funding operate off of the budget that we're on now. So that budget just continues into next year, and if they don't ever get a budget, they keep going. So we're never going to shut down. People don't have to worry that they're not going to have things in state government that they need, and we'll go on.
When we come back, the murder trial of the accused killer of Sade Robinson has brought the issue of missing and murdered black women to the forefront of Wisconsin policy. We speak with a lawmaker who has been working to get a task force for those women off the ground for years. And later, we take a look at the impact of professional women's sports in Wisconsin with Lauren Carlini and Claire Chaussee of Love Madison. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to For the Record. The trial is underway of a 34-year-old Milwaukee man who is charged with killing a 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Now, during opening statements, the state pointed to what they called overwhelming evidence, including videos and phone tracking data that they say proves Maxwell Anderson killed Robinson last April. Now, meanwhile, the defense repeatedly discussed the concept of reasonable doubt with the jurors.
Maxwell Anderson attempted to make her disappear from this world by discarding her body into body parts into Lake Michigan, and then taking her car and burning it behind an abandoned building.
They didn't find any of Sade's blood with all the samples they took throughout that entire house.
Now, this underscores the efforts by some state leaders to create a task force for missing and murdered black women and girls. Among those leaders is State Representative Sheila Stubbs, the first black lawmaker to represent Dane County in the state capitol. She joins us now with more. And Representative, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Will, for this interview.
So I want to first start with where are we now in those efforts to create a task force?
But first of all, before we start there, let me just say I am in prayer for Mrs. Scarborough and the entire family, the Robinson family, Scarborough family, for this time that is so important for them. And so my prayers go out to them and their family. And with that being said, I am fully planning to reintroduce this bill this session. I'm still in conversation with many of our partners, national partners, victims, survivors and their families to find the most appropriate time to reintroduce this legislation.
Now, with this high-profile trial happening right now, it kind of brings us to the forefront, certainly of public discourse. What does it mean to kind of see a high-profile case in a format like this? And do you think it will motivate any lawmakers to kind of get this done?
Well, I can just say this, that I've been in conversation with Ms. Scarborough many, many times. When I heard of the tragic news of Sharday Robinson's homicide, I checked in regularly with Ms. Scarborough and her family to see what I could do to be supportive, to try and work with her, to see what was best needs for that family, her family. We've had an interview together. I communicate with her. I've even communicated with her since this trial has started. But I think what it does is recenters that this particular task force is so important across the state of Wisconsin. Let's talk about in 2020, we had 90,333 Black women missing nationally, and 5 Black women a day are murdered. That is unacceptable. We also know between 2019 and 2020, Black female homicide victimization numbers in Wisconsin doubled from 10.1 out of 100,000 people to 20.2 out of 100,000 people, making it the most deadly state for Black women to live in that year. And so as an African-American legislator, as a Black woman, as a mom, as a pastor, as a community activist, as a legislator, I know firsthand that we must do something about this across the state of Wisconsin. There's the Ms. Sharday Robinson case, there's the Shiki Hill case, there's Janiyah Walker's case. There are many cases of Black missing women and girls across the state that just have not gotten the profile that they should have gotten through the media. I want to thank you because we know from statistics, media is 4 times less likely to cover a case with missing Black women and girls. And so Mrs. Robinson case has a national platform. And I just want to let you know that we are going to stand with Mrs. Scarborough. We're going to continue to work with her, and she is willing to support this legislation. And I hope that we get this legislation passed across the state of Wisconsin. We know Governor Evers has put money in this budget, $80,200 for fiscal year 2026. And for 2027, Governor Evers has put $99,500 in the budget. The same thing with Attorney General Hall, and that money is going to fund 1 full-time position to staff the task force. Look, it's important that we get this work done, and I hope that when we get this task force implemented, we prevent one more person, one more African-American from being missing or murdered, because we know this has everything to do with human trafficking. And so I'm very hopeful this session. I look forward to talking to my colleagues, but most importantly, getting this task force up and going for the state of Wisconsin.
Representative Stubbs, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Will.
Now, when we come back, we chat with 2 local names at the forefront of professional volleyball in Madison. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to For the Record. Now, Atlanta, Houston, Austin, Salt Lake City, Omaha, and then us here in Madison. These are all cities part of the new League One volleyball. And it shows that Madison has a desire for women's sports on the same level as many of the country's largest cities. Now, earlier this month, we sat down with 2 of the players on the Love Madison team, former Badger Lauren Carlini and Sun Prairie native Claire Chaussee, to talk about the league's inaugural season and what the future will look like for women's sports in Madison. Well, thank you both for sitting down with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I want to first kind of get at the heart of this past season. How did it go for you guys?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster for sure. I would say started off tough, absolutely. I think it was a 7 or 8 match losing streak.
Yeah.
And fans stayed with it. We stayed with it. Got in the gym and just started working a little bit more with double days and starting a little bit different systems, and then got on a hot streak there almost all the way through the end of season, and that was really fun. I wish we would have had 5 to 10 more home matches, because that was when we were really hitting our stride, but just being able to really finish like we did, and of course we had a heartbreaker against Omaha in the tournament, but really great season, really great women that we were surrounded by, and it was a joy to go into the gym every day.
And say too, you guys have both played at varying levels too. What's it like to kind of start from the ground up on a completely new league, a completely new team here?
Yeah.
I feel like, one, it's not easy, but we had people like Lauren and other founding players and people behind the scenes who have been working on this for 4 or 5 years in the making. So having them coming in early, doing the hard work, and then us players showing up and kind of just getting to do what we love. And I think it's more of a joyful thing, and we get to show the younger generation like what they can do later in life, because I feel like we didn't have that growing up here. But yeah, without the founding players and other people coming in early, 5 years early, doing all the hard work, it wouldn't have been possible without them. So
I think speaking that too, just the risk that some other players took in coming to America and being a part of a startup, essentially, right? They had opportunities to continue to go overseas and play in Italy and Turkey and Germany, but they chose to come here. And so without people making that sacrifice and taking that risk, we would not have had the success that we had this year throughout the league.
What's the market like for, you think pro sports, certainly NFL, we're in the NBA playoffs right now too.
Yeah.
Coming overseas and then playing that pro volleyball here, what's that like? What's that comparison?
I mean, organizationally, it was incredible. The people that we had working behind the scenes, to Claire's point, for the last couple of years, and making sure that when we hit the ground in January, we were running. And of course, we had our hiccups here and there, and travel for us was quite tough coming in and out of Madison. Anyone knows, Dane County does not travel to many places direct. And so we definitely had some things we had to work out, but with being a startup, we knew that was going to happen. So it honestly went as smoothly as I think it could have went. And just the support that we felt here in Madison from the community, from volleyball fans, from casual fans, was incredible. I mean, I know a lot of us can't walk through Target or Costco without being recognized and be like, we're season ticket holders now, we love you guys. And it was just so cool to feel that throughout the season and have it build.
and everyone's hoping for a longer season. They just want it to continue. So maybe down the road, it will last a little longer, but everyone's really excited for next season to start already.
Yeah, and you're mentioning before the fans too here in Madison. You think, with the legacy that the Badger volleyball team has, especially here, fans seem receptive to it.
Absolutely.
It seems like the right market for it.
Absolutely, and they want to see their Badgers, continue to play in front of them. Once you go overseas, it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and so being able to stay here in Madison and play and have people from Louisville come and then be like, oh, that rings a bell. Like, we played against her a couple times, and those fans just love making those connections.
Yeah. When we talk about seeing women's sports in the spotlight here, certainly, and especially for those young players in a town like Madison, how important is that to see that kind of representation there?
I think it's super important. Like I mentioned earlier, not having pro sports like volleyball to watch growing up, we didn't really know what to expect going overseas or what even talking to agents was like. So I think being able to kind of pave the way for those younger girls, and I know even just the girls who have done this even longer with more experience, that's just truly why they're doing it. They're trying to pave the way for the younger generation, and I think it's really cool as someone who's just starting out in her pro career to see what they've done and just to, again, do that for the younger generation. I think it's so cool to just see what all these girls have done.
Yeah. What do you guys hope the next seasons will look like? What will be kind of on the horizon for this?
Yeah, I think looking forward to next season, we're going to have a couple more home matches, which I know all of our fans will be really excited about. Hopefully a couple more in the field house as well. I know that was a fan favorite. As well, we're going to be traveling quite a bit more. Just with adding a couple more matches, we might extend the season a little bit. And then also for playoffs, instead of all the teams making the final cut, it was 6. It's only going to be 4 next year. So the regular season will play into kind of your finals opportunities. So really looking forward to it. We're going to have a little bit different team moving into next season, and even we don't know who exactly we're going to have, but just really excited for the new opportunities, and hopefully another Badger or 2, of course, on the roster. But of course, really excited to have Claire Chassé back. She's our little golden girl.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, the start of June brings a couple of celebrations to Wisconsin. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to For the Record. June 1st marks the beginning of Dairy Month in Wisconsin and politicians traveling to farms for dairy breakfasts. Governor Evers, for example, earlier this week stopped at a dairy breakfast in Marshfield. Now, June also marks Pride Month, and on Friday, Governor Evers raised once again the Pride flag over the East Wing of the state capitol. That has been an annual tradition since Evers has been in office since 2019.
No matter who you are, what you believe, who you love, or how you express your truest, most authentic self, you are family here, you belong here, and you are welcome home here.
Now, a reminder that you can watch full episodes of the show, as well as expanded interviews, on our website at channel3000.com. That does it for us this week. I'm Will Keneally. Have a great rest of your weekend.
This has been For the Record.